Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. I apologise for my lack of uploads over the Christmas and New Year period. I have no excuse really, aside from I had a little bit of uni work to do and I never got the time to sit down and actually record something because busy house, family, friends, you know how it goes. So I didn't get a chance to make any videos of Christmas. I am really sorry about that, but I have got my script backlog done, so there will be 40k stories starting this weekend, and hopefully that will run uninterrupted for the next 5 or 6 weeks. So that's good at the very, very least. Now, whilst normally this sort of slot would go to a year in review or something like that, and I probably will still do one, today I wanted to talk about the New Year's Open Day. Because we have had our first set of reveals for the year, which is very, very exciting because we get to see sort of the rough direction that we're going in for the first few months at the very least of this year. And some very interesting things came out of it. Some things that are more model-based, some things that are more lore-based. Basically, lots of fun things coming. So, I want to talk about all that and dive in and see what's coming our way over the next few months. So, let's have a look. And we start off at the last thing of the day because that's how I usually do these sorts of things. I do them by scrolling down the article. And the first thing is the Whisperings from Hysh. Yeah, it is Hysh, not Hysh. So yeah, it's Hysh. The Realm of Light. Pointy elves. Now, I'm not going to play the trailer for you here. You can go and look at the trailer for yourself. But it talks a lot in that trailer about the classic high elves. The pointy helms, the feathers, and all of the things that made the high elves, well, the high elves. And they talk about that and say that that's what's coming. So pointy elves, they'll probably come up with a better name, although the community has already decided that pointy elves is the best name ever, are going to be one of the next new Age of Sigmar factions. We're not sure when they're going to be coming. I would wager we'll probably see them sometime in mid to late February. We'll get the first reveal, and then in March they'll come out. That's my prediction, is that they will come out in March. But I'd be willing to see them in February as well. I don't know. We will see. And we get one teaser of the actual miniatures that we're going to get. Now, these elves are the elves of Hysh. They are Teclis's elves. It talks about their Teclis and his proper elves. And this guy up here, this miniature, whoever they are, very much reminds me of Teclis in many, 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 many ways. So the first is the moon sigil, sort of around the helm, which is in some ways symbolic of Teclis. His favour was Liliath, the goddess of the moon. Was one of the gods who favoured Teclis. I believe he had quite a lot of moon motifs on his old miniature, though I don't recall it off the top of my head. They've got a staff, they've got a sword, which very much is what Teclis had. He had the staff of Liliath and the blade of Hoeth back in the day. The back collar is exceptionally elaborate. It's not quite Volturnos of the Ideneth Deepkin elaborate, but it is elaborate nonetheless. And obviously Teclis created the Ideneth Deepkin, so it would make sense if he himself had some design cues that maybe the Ideneth borrowed from, or that it will retroactively have borrowed from him, even though it looks like now he's borrowing from them. So this is clearly a wizard character who can also do a little bit of fighting in melee. They're clearly quite regal with all these big billowing robes, the huge back sigil, banner, collar, themic jib. I think this is Teclis himself. And it wouldn't be the first time we've seen gods actually show up in the battlefields of the mortal realms. We've seen Alariel, who is a god. We've seen Nagash, who is a god. We've seen Archaon, who is a pseudo-god. He's basically powerful enough to go toe-to-toe with the gods, even though he's not actually a god. We've seen Marathi, who is a demi-goddess. I think is probably the best word for her. So, the Pantheon of Order have shown up before. As I say, we've seen 3 examples there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Malerion, when we get to the Shadow Elves, shows up as well. So Teclis actually appearing in the Mortal Realms, I'm down with that. And it makes more sense than Tyrion, because Tyrion is the Blind King. Or at the very least, he's blind. I don't know if they call him the Blind King, but he is blind. So Tyrion taking to the field in person doesn't make as much sense as it used to. So I think this is Teclis, which would complement quite nicely with Alarielle. And when we get Malerion and Morathi, we've got a full Elven pantheon there, ready to rock and roll. The next question is, what are the pointy elves going to be? Because the High Elf range, as you might remember it from Warhammer Fantasy, was scrapped. Most of the High Elf range was removed from existence at the time of the Cities of Sigmar release. So Shadow Warriors survived, Illyrian Reavers survived, White Lions survived, the Phoenixes survived, and that was about it, really. All of the core troops like Lothern Sea Guard, Spearmen, Archers, they all went. Dragon Princes went, the Silver Helms went, and we know that they're sort of tied to High Elf history and to Teclis's Mortal Realms history, because the Idoneth talk about the Silver Helms and the Dragon Princes almost in reverie, in idolization of the Turak, the Silver Helms, and the Dragon Princes. So I think that the High Elf range has been retired in order to be rebooted under Teclis's banner. But if that's the case, why retire them? Why not say keep Spearmen and Archers, bring those kits across because they're absolutely fine. When you've allowed Dread Spears and Dark Shards and stuff to stay, why retire the High Elf side and then release them again? Unless they're going to do a drastic redesign. So with the more specific things like Lothern Sea Guard, I understand why they've been retired and probably needed to be revamped to fit with Hysh rather than Lothern. But I'm very interested to see what they do with the pointy elves. The second aspect to it is some of the lore that we've had about Teclis's creations from the Daughters of Cain and the Idoneth Deepkin books. Because after Teclis made the Idoneth, he had another go at creating whatever, and Teclis and Tyrion created beings of pure light, as if they were almost light demons, or celestials, as they call the Stormcast and the Seraphon. Celestials, light demons, which is what I expected this army to be. And it'll be interesting to see what theme the pointy elves, whether they bring in the light demons as separate units, work the two together to make them sort of glowing beings of light in elven form, or maybe have them be possessed by the light of Hysh that makes them lightning fast, so they have the old always strikes first rule back. I don't know, but this absolutely fascinates me as a former High Elf player and as someone who has Daughters of Cain and Idoneth Deepkin already, has got some Cities of Sigmar with Dark Elves, with Order Serpentis and Darkling Covens, and someone who's just all about elves, has been since Fantasy and will be in Age of Sigmar. I'm absolutely down for this, and I can't wait to see what the pointy elves A, end up being called, and B, end up being represented by. Lots to come from them, and I'm excited. Sorry, I've spent about 7 minutes talking about the first thing, just one teaser image. So, let's get through the rest of the reveals from the event. The first major one of the day, not the first one of this video, the first one of the day, was Wrath of the Everchosen. So Wrath of the Everchosen is basically the Vigilus books, but Sigmarized. So in the Ossiarch Bone Reapers book and the Slaves to Darkness book, they talk about the fact that the Ossiarch under Catacros have led an invasion of the 8 Points. Now the 8 Points is sort of the central region of the Mortal Realms connected to all 8 of the realms. Some of the gates are sealed off, but from the 8 Points, the forces of the Slaves to Darkness can strike from anywhere. It's where the Baron Spire is, it's where Archaon himself lives, and it's where Warcry takes place, is in the 8 Points. Everything that happens with realm travel could theoretically go through the 8 Points. And now the Ossiarch are trying to take it. And Wrath of the Everchosen is that war between Archaon and Catacros. This is really, really cool, as it gets to push the plot forward and play out what's going on. And they also talk about some of the new rules that it's going to add. So it talks about how Chaos are going to get a real mix of army options, which is nice, because I've heard that Slaves to Darkness haven't quite hit the heights in the competitive scene yet, if they will at all. And obviously, a lot of the other Chaos forces have been out for a while. Tzeentch is just about to get redone. It's just been redone now. Slaanesh has just been nerfed. Nurgle's been out for ages, and Khorne's been out for a good while. So giving Chaos a small boost to maybe revamp them and rejig them a bit to fit under Archaon's banner, that's cool. And for everybody else, you've got wandering monsters, roaming endless spells, and the return of siege warfare, which was last seen in the 2017 General's Handbook. So some really cool stuff here. But I have one gripe with Wrath of the Everchosen. And that gripe is quite simple. Who wins? And what can the plot actually sustain this conflict? Because let's say Katakros wins. If Katakros takes this realm gate and the forces of death establish a beachhead within the 8 points, what does that mean for the plot? Well, nothing. It means that there's going to be more battles taking place within the 8 points as the forces of death can now muster properly. Maybe Nagash and the other Mortarts will take the field and they can start a full-on assault on the Varanspire. Okay, but that won't happen for a good few years, and in that event, Death can't win, because if the Varanspire falls, then Archaon's basically lost. So, for the sake of keeping Archaon strong, in the end, Death will have to lose this fight. But if they lose right away, and they lose in Wrath of the Everchosen and get pushed back, then A, nothing happened, the invention was pointless, so nothing happened for the sake of the plot, and B, it jobs out the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, who are a brand new faction, sort of Nagash's answers to the Stormcast, the pinnacle of Nagash's creations, handcrafted warriors of undeath, and they get jobbed out to Slaves to Darkness, to basic dudes and girls and gribblies from all over the realms, and they just trash them, led by Archaon. The Ossiarch can't afford to lose, because they're a new faction who have been built up to be this really important powerhouse in the armies of death. They can't get jobbed out to Archaon. But if Archaon loses now, you still know he's going to win later, because he can't lose the Varanspire, because that would have just earth-shattering implications and sort of symbol a completely new age for the mortal realms, the Age of Death, basically, where Nagash rules supreme from the Varanspire, or whatever he raises in its place, and it's a new scramble where Archaon now is leading pillaging raids, has lost the favour of the gods quite probably. The plot can't really take that in some ways, and the setting would really, really, really change. Now, I love plot moving changes, and I think it'd be a really bold move to have Archaon lose here, lose again, and then lose the Varanspire to the sheer tactical brilliance of Katakros and the raw death magic power of Nagash. Even now, Nagash is not on his own turf, because Archaon beat him back in the Age of Chaos in Shaiish, especially if the forces of order get involved, and there's a sort of entente cordiale between the forces of death and the forces of order saying, you know what, let's get the Varanspire, I'll kill you later, or re-kill you later. So, it'd be a bold move for the plot, but I don't see them going with it, which means Archaon's going to win eventually, which renders this not quite pointless, but certainly less earth-shattering than it could be, which is something that Psychic Awakening and the Vigilus books were also kind of guilty of, because the Vigilus books gave us Primaris Calgar and the new Abaddon miniature, but what actually happened? Oh, Vigilus got a bit blown up. It didn't die, and it wasn't lost, it just got very, very invaded and damaged, but eventually Abaddon ran off because the Vengeful Spirit was being boarded. In the end, same old status quo, just more chaos on Vigilus. Psychic Awakening, what's happened? Book 1, no one of any import died. Mainly because of plot conveniences and potentially some big lore reveals, but nobody died. Psychic Awakening 2, I don't even know. Probably the world's just left in stalemate. Psychic Awakening 3, conflict is ongoing. It's Blood Angels versus Tyranids. That war will never end. Psychic Awakening 4, all I can see is that probably the Thousand Sons will probably lose, because they might have their ritual disrupted by the Grey Knights because it would have such earth-shattering consequences for the universe that for the sake of the plot, they can't be allowed to win, so they'll lose and get jobbed out to the Grey Knights and the Dark Angels without a Primarch, despite the Thousands having a Primarch. The plot is in a position now, and they've got to be careful between re-establishing the status quo and being bold enough to push forward without jobbing anybody out. It's difficult. It is difficult, but I'm interested to see what happens in Wrath of the Everchosen. That is for sure. Warcry, no new reveals here. They just got to show off the Fomoroid Crusher, the Mind Stealer Sphinx, and the Ogroid Myrmidon there and then, sort of in the building. Underworlds received a really cool warband, Hrothgorn's Man-Trappers, which is a mix of Beastclaw Raiders and Gutbusters, so an Ogor Moor Tribes warband, if you will, which is a hunter, an ogre or hunter of some sort. I'm not sure exactly what classification they'd be. A Frost Saber and a few Noblards, which is a really different way of doing it. It kind of reminds me of the Mollog's Mob Warband, where it all revolved around one big smashy person, supported by a few smaller things. This is kind of similar, although there are two big smashy things, one big, one medium smashy thing, and then a few little things as well. So an interesting warband, and I think that if you're a Beastgrave player, you'll be looking forward to seeing how they fit in. Then we get to Warhammer 40,000. The Sisters of Battle got a nice set of reveals, and most of this is coming out very, very soon. So a lot of the multi-part Plastic Sisters kits are coming out this week, or going on pre-order this week, including these guys, the Retributors, who look suitably badass. And you've also got the Zephyrim, who are sort of a more, seemingly like elite Seraphim, and they look lovely. I really like these miniatures. I've said before, I love the Sisters of Battle range, but I'd never buy it, and I stand by that, but the Zephyrim are absolutely gorgeous. Arcoflagellants, they're Arcoflagellants. They look lovely, but they probably suffer from the Witch Elf effect of they're going to repeat very, 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 very often, and are probably monopose, so boo. And then we get a few variants on the Penitent Engine, the Battle Sanctum, the Mortifier, and all of that stuff. This is creepy as all heck, by the way. Just, no. I've read up the lore on these things, and they're awful and terrifying and horrible, and I want nothing to do with them. They also put out, or revealed, a Sisters Terrain piece, which I don't think has any in-game effects, to my knowledge, but it's a lovely, lovely statue of a living saint, with a sort of ruined cathedral, or actually not that ruined cathedral behind. Really cool terrain piece, and will not look out of place on many Imperial city boards or shrine boards, which is great. Show off a bit of the cherubim, which is lovely. And then we got this. Now, this got a little bit leaked the day before the reveal, the night before the day of the reveal. So I saw this model a little bit early, but Commander Shadowsun is back. There you go. Yeah, Commander Shadowsun's got a brand new miniature. In fact, I'll expand the image for you. So, this is part of Psychic Awakening 5, The Greater Good, and I really like the new Shadowsun. I think she looks really, 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 really good. It's a really dynamic pose, which is very good. She's kept the Fusion Blaster motif, Twin Fusion. The XV22, which is what I assume that is, has got the classic designs, but it's kept the sort of Ghost Keel-like motif, which the Ghost Keel copied off her first, let's be realistic here. And she just looks really, really cool. They've souped the battlesuit up. It's now got Fletchet launchers and a light missile pod as well. And the Fusion Blasters can either be focused, like the old ones, or dispersed, so they can work as Space Marine busters, which I assume will be like flamers, like melter flamers or something like that, which is really, really brutal and suits her down to a T. You've got 3 head options, no helmet, half a helmet, and a full helmet. I prefer the full helmet version myself, mainly just because I think the hair is ridiculously long on the bareheaded version, but she looks great. She's gained an extra drone, You can see the symbol. The left-hand drone, I think, is the command link drone, the one on that side. That one there, sort of above my head, I believe is a Guardian drone. I think someone showed me the image of the back of the box that they've got from the open day. And that's a Guardian drone, which in-game provides invulnerable saves to Fire Warrior teams, and breaches in particular. So I think that would be a really nice way to give Shadow Sun an invulnerable save without building it into her armor, which is mainly based around stealth. That's a really nice mechanism, and I think Shadow Sun looks great. We don't get any details on Psychic Awakening Book 5, though the header image for the open day did show a Pure Strain Genestealer in the corner, near to where Shadow Sun's miniature was being shown off. So I'm suspecting that the tower are going to fight Genestealer cults, but I'm willing to take other options. For example, the Death Guard at the Startide Nexus would make a lot of sense. That is a really interesting battle. A Psychic Awakening for the tower is weird anyway, but having that lead to an influx in Genestealer cultists with psychic abilities, I'm not going to say no to. So plenty of options for Psychic Awakening 5, whatever it happens to be, and that'll be along probably around the end of the month because they keep shoving them out so quickly. No, wait, this one is February. Yes, they said it. Psychic Awakening 5 is February, Psychic Awakening 6 is March. So we'll get more details probably toward the end of January, and it will drop early in February, is my suspicion. Either way, looks like a really cool miniature, and hopefully when they get round to Farsight one day, which won't be today, then he'll get the same treatment. They also changed her rules a little bit to allow her to lead armies from any sept, though with the asterisk saying that she's not a fan of Farsight, I think she'll be able to lead any Empire force, but still not lead an Enclave's force. Or maybe they'll have some sort of mutual exclusivity, where if you take Farsight, you can't take Shadow Sun, and vice versa. Whatever it is, Shadow Sun has been really souped up, and I hope the Tau get treated well. I'll be buying Psychic Awakening 5, mainly for the rules, but also to see what's going on with them in the lore, which will be the first Psychic Awakening book I've actually bought. So I look forward to getting my hands on that. And that's it. That is the New Year's Open Day for 2020. The decade is off and running. I actually forgot to say Happy New Year at the start of the video, so I hope you did have a pleasant Christmas and New Year period if you were celebrating it. Yeah, really cool reveals. I'm more interested in the Sigmar side because I've sort of pivoted really into a Sigmar focus over the last year or so. The light elves, the pointy elves for Teclis and Hish, really, really interested to see what those are. Wrath of the Everchosen, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it and how bold they're going to be with the plot. Shadow Sun for Psychic Awakening 5 looks great, though I reserve judgment on whether the book's going to be any good until I've bought it. But that is all for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always interested to see what you have to say. For now, though, thank you for watching Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again. Bye for now.